It's WG, bring your SMB, the final 2 days of Night of the Hunter here, so I'm going to give you a guide for all 5 stages, starting with stage 1. So, the buffs you want to go with are the Blood Moon Shadow as well as the Chop Chop. That is all you want to go with. Team formation, we'll talk about it. Team rotation, we'll talk about it. Artifacts, all that good stuff, you know the deal. So, Timeless Aeona, give her your best light armor gear you have. The more echoes, the more gear, the more stats, the better, right? Pretty obvious. You want to give her the basic attack artifact, and preferably you want the highest level of basic attack possible. Outside of that, we have a Fleeting Bella. Fleeting Bella, give her the artifact with the highest attacks that you have lying around, and then overall just give her a bunch of light gear. The better the light gear you give her, the more she boosts your Timeless Aeona. Then Albrecht, you can give him whatever the artifact you want. It doesn't really make a difference at all whatsoever. And then you can give him heavy armor gear. Acapella, same thing. And then Otavia, you can give her the I guess you can give her the best medium gear you have lying around. And artifact wise, you can use the debuff artifact. You could also use the basic artifact. You could also use the ult artifact. There's a couple choices here, but overall at the end of the day, Otavia does not make a difference for the damage you're going to deal. These are the units you want to use. It's going to be Fleeting Bella, Acapella, and then Starry-Eyed Aeona. Let me show you the rotation, and then you kind of just gotta see how much damage you can get out of it. So, you want to start this whole thing off with an Acapella, which is pretty straightforward. The higher your Acapella ult, the smoother and the better you'll be able to pull off this rotation, maybe even better than I can, because mine is only on level 8 instead of level 10. And you might even have like Blood Soul Recovery substats or whatever. But yeah, so here we go into the first Blood Moon to then apply Otavia's buff and trigger our Acapella. And then it's going to be the same rotation over and over and over and over and over again. And that is the following. You wait for the Blood Moon to end. Then you trigger Otavia and Albrecht. And then you go into another Blood Moon with Acapella. And then you hold. You wait for Aeona's ult to end. Aeona's ult ends. You wait for the Blood Moon to disappear. And then you can start with an Albrecht into a Otavia, into a Acapella. Then you wait, and then by the time you have the Blood Soul, you jump into Timeless Aeona. And then once again, you wait for Timeless Aeona's ult to end. You trigger Timeless Aeona. You wait for the Blood Moon to end. I hope you get the deal. But yeah, the earlier you can use Acapella, the better, because it helps a bit with like Blood Soul recovery and keeping the rotation straight. And overall, if you can, you want to prioritize Albrecht before Otavia, because Albrecht takes a bit to, like, I guess you could say, shoot his ult. So in a rotation like this, for example, we start off pretty much like this. Always do make sure that you do leave the Blood Moon, otherwise it's just going to be wasted stuff. And I should have actually went in with Fleeting a bit earlier here. Bit of a mistake on my end, but seeing as how the ultimate wasn't triggered fully anyway, I think we got away decently well. And then right here once more, next Blood Moon, rinse and repeat. Overall, your whole score depends on how good are your Echo Aeona substats, how many gear pieces do you have, how lucky do you get with your Acapella buffs. And that's then kind of the whole shenanigan of this stage. And yeah, that's pretty much as far as it goes. Here we'll be able to pull off... What the fuck? Can we... Oh, we don't have the Fleeting Bella card on. She died? Yeah, that doesn't happen like usually, you know? Yeah, that's a first. I swear that's a first. I haven't even seen this happen before, like ever. But hey, I guess it is what it is. Though overall, no matter what you really do, you're always going to kind of be kept by your Timeless Aeona damage, seeing as how this time it was 119 million. I played around with other rotations. The highest I got was 122. It just depends what kind of subsets are you working with, what kind of buffs do you get from Acapella, and how high is the Blood Soul recovery on Acapella. And then also overall. Yeah, but this is stage 1. Alright, so here we are with stage 2. The goal here is to use Stella and Fanny. If you don't have Stella and Fanny, you can pretty much forget about this stage. And the reason is because this perk actually gives you 5 hunting points if you kill enemies, but you won't be able to kill them without piercing damage. This is going to be the team you'll be running with, in that we have a Agnes, we have a Fanny, we have a Lamine. Lamine is there because these units actually die, meaning that her passive Blood Frenzy gets triggered. We have Albrecht for the vulnerability and Low Moon, and then we have Stella for piercing damage. Furthermore, you also want to use Stella's talent to the point that you actually trigger her ult at preferably always only 0 cost after she's afflicted the stasis. Artifact wise, we have the basic attack artifact on Agnes, we have the ult damage artifact on Fanny and Stella, but the crit artifact works also as well. You could also go with the debuff artifact on Fanny. All these pretty much yield similar-ish results, but we actually have that one. So let's go into a fight, let's go into a proper rotation, and let's see what this is all about. So for the first wave, you can use a Fanny to just, I guess you could say, deal with this wave. Then you can also use an Albrecht if you want to like inflict an extra debuff. Here your goal is to be pulling all of these together, giving you a low moon. Then you can use a very cheap Stella to also inflict the stasis, meaning that her next ultimate will pretty much be for free. Then by this time you can put in another Fanny ult, wait for this wave to die, pull these units in, get another 0 cost, apply, well I guess you hold on to Albrecht because you really only want to use them for the next Blood Moon, so you can do another Fanny. You can use your Albrecht, you can pull everybody in, you can get the ult off for free. Hit some more right here, get into the Blood Moon, pull these enemies in. Like your main goal is to not let any of these enemies escape the circle, because that is what really costs you time. The longer it takes you to defeat these, and especially if one of these units, I guess you could say, escape you, that is when you're like really in trouble. So preferably you only use Albrecht outside of the full moon, you use Agnes to make sure that everybody stays together nice and tight, and then you use your Stella whenever she's ready at her beautiful 0 cost. You kind of forget about Albrecht actually being there, and that's kind of how you roll. So anything else like that, yes, there's like certain moments where you could wait a little longer with an ult to get a slightly better result. But overall, that is entirely up to you. Keep in mind, this fight does also have like RNG bullshit tied to it. It is kind of dependent on how strong your units are. Like if you have like stronger Stella, stronger Fannies, you're obviously going to be able to deal more damage. Here you can see like an example of one of these units, you could say escaping. And that is then what like really costs you time. So your goal is obviously to preferably catch everyone without any one of these escaping, so that you get the maximum score. And yeah, that's kind of honestly that's kind of it. That is kind of all this fight is all about. You want to pull people in, you want to deal damage, and you want to make sure that these units don't just randomly run into your other units. And yeah, that is this beautiful stage right here for you. The better you are at this, the more score you're going to get, the more things you kill, the more score you're going to get. And yeah, I don't know, I think that's kind of it for the most part. Obviously, having 100% uptime on Fanny is for the best, because that is where the real damage comes from. You can rectify some mistakes by pulling enemies back in when they ran away, but you preferably don't even want this to happen. Like for example, you see how this enemy there on the side escaped us. Shouldn't have happened. Now this is going to slow down our whole rotation. It's going to worsen our score, seeing as we only got 1045. If you play this picture perfect and you don't let anybody escape, you can expect anywhere from like 1200 to 1500, 1600. Overall, here's someone with, let's see, I think this guy, you can see here, he only has triple copies on both, and he's made it to 1260. So it just depends on how willing are you to actually play this stage, and how hard do you want this. Alright, here we are for stage 3. It's going to be a more traditional Timeless Aeona team, but then Fanny again with the ability to finish off enemies a bit quicker, buying you more time for your Timeless Aeona to start swapping targets, because the targets count already as dead when the whip comes down. And then here we have the Volatile Strikes, where we have a chance to trigger additional damage, and here we have the extra Blood Souls to help us keep our rotations alive. And that's, yeah, that's kind of it. So, yeah, this is the team we'll be going with. We have a Fanny, we have a Acapella, we have a Fleeting Bella, and then we have ourselves a Timeless. The way you place your units, it doesn't really make too much of a difference. The only thing you should know is that Timeless Aeona uptime at 100% is key. So that is what we'll be doing here. And then as soon as we hopefully get some Blood Souls, we'll also be able to trigger more abilities. And the faster you can trigger this, the better you can start into your run, the better you can start into your run, the more successful you'll be. But honestly, I don't know if it's that worth it to gamble on that chance. You kind of just have to see, is it worth your time, right? But yeah, if enemies start, they go in this circle. So top, down, left, right, top, you know, they just go around like this. So for example, if these enemies are gonna die soon, then we could summon the Fanny ult right here, so we can already work on weakening the other enemies that are bound to spawn, as you can see right there. And then here again, same scenario, same principle. Blood Moon, we're really just waiting for Fleeting to come back. But yeah, at some point you might also just have too much blood souls to know what to really reliably do with. But yeah, you're just gonna try your best. Pay attention to your timeless. Pay attention to the rotation. Just it's either like this corner or this corner. It's always gonna end up in like a similar way, I guess you could say. Do your attacks, spam out your ults, play it on 1x speed if you want to take this a bit more seriously. Don't if you don't, and have fun, I guess. But yeah, that's all the grand secrets that you can learn in regards to this stage. And yeah, I hope this at least helped you to some degree. And something that was a bit on my mind is, depending on yeah, here obviously, right, it kind of depends, right? Do you get the 50% chance? Do you get the kills? But yeah, you can see the highest I have was 175. Yeah, let's get into it. Overall, you can replay the beginning if you want to, because there's always a 10% chance for you to gain the extra blood souls. But realistically, it's not really all that worth it. The only thing you're kind of hoping for is that you get a little bit of blood souls early. And then your main responsibility number one is make sure Aeona never runs out of her ult, and the moment she does, you trigger her again. And then responsibility number two is just to spam every other ultimate under the moon. Rotation wise, it goes here, 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 here. So if you have like a Fanny ult, you just kind of can, I guess you could say, predict where the enemies are going to spawn to help a little bit with dealing with them. And yeah, then you just continue. You just continue. You want to make sure that the moment Fleeting Bella, I guess, leaves Timeless Aeona, you are back in Timeless Aeona. And then again, the moment Timeless Aeona's ult ends, you use Timeless Aeona. You try to not use these units in the same corners. And yeah, then that is kind of the stage. It is somewhat straightforward, you could say. And you can play it at 1x speed if you want slightly better results. So once again, here we want to move in. Here we have enough blood cell recovery so we can still wait this out. Get everything else in. The buffs ready. Once again, wait for Timeless. Alright, so overall, you can see if this score works for you better or worse. It depends a bit on RNG, but this can work as well. Right, yeah, so here we are for stage 4. For those of you familiar with Clan Hunt, this should be a very welcoming stage. As you've seen, we're using the blue chalice, we're using the yellow staff. Team formation wise, we're just going to go with Tihati in the front, and then we're just going to have Agnes, Fanny, Agaris, and Albrecht. Rotation order-wise, we're going to have these units. Overall, we have the damage over time artifact, basic attack artifact, and basic attack artifact. So basic attack artifact pretty much for him to just trigger this passive more often. I guess you could consider putting the basic artifact on Fanny as well with the Doom Chamber. But yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at. And then it is a fight you kinda want to play on 1x speed, because there's going to be a lot of stuff going on. So straight off the bat, we're going to be trying and putting all these units in. Then we're going to use our Power of Albrecht, as well as a good old Hati ult. And then here we have our Fanny ult. Pulling everybody in again. We can do a Agara's ult. But overall, if anything ever was ult spamming in the history of ever, then this is it. Like, this is legitimately just spamming the hell out of as many ults as you can physically get your hands on and trying to hit as many targets as possible. It is super chaotic. Every shield you break actually gives you points, and yeah, it is also kind of random. Sometimes you hit when like the shields aren't there, sometimes you hit when the shields are weak. It's yeah, it's a mess, but overall you really do want to make sure you get out all your both debuff ultimates on Agara's and on Fanny. You want to make sure you pull these enemies in nice and tight. You also do want to make sure you have a Fanny ult active at almost all times to make sure that you get the debuff, so that you can that you don't lose or start losing out on that blood soul recovery. And that's, I guess you could say, kind of the gist of this. Whenever units are nice and close, you can then also add in a additional ult on the side of Tihati, and then you also see that how sometimes these units just aren't ult ready. Is what it is. It's not the most complicated stage ever in the history of the universe, but it is at least a different stage to what we were used to from the last Night of the Hunt, where pretty much just Timeless Aeona only dominated. Is this thing gonna be fun if you don't have a Timeless? Is this thing gonna be fun if you don't have a Tihati? Probably not, but I feel like you can at least somewhat stand a chance. But yeah, it is very chaotic, that's for sure. Using Albrecht every time we can then enter into a Blood Moon again also is pretty much advised. How often you Hati ult or not, it just really depends. And I don't think there's too much of a right or wrong here. You kind of just go with the flow, trying to pull these units in and then have your ults going. Fanny should be high priority, and then outside of that you just kind of go with whatever you think just is going to fit well. Score wise, you can expect anything from like 500 to 1000 depending on how strong your units are, how well everything works together, which level your debuff artifact is. And yeah, I think that's kind of all there is to this stage. There isn't anything truly too technical. Obviously, if you have a higher level Fanny, higher level Tihati and the like, it's going to help. Having echo pieces on someone like a Tihati is going to help. Damage wise, you can see Fanny is quite important, which is why we have the DOT artifact on her, and then you can see Hati obviously coming in with the most damage. Agara's at least doing respectable, and Agnes mainly being there, making everybody else shine. Right, so here we are for the final stage 5, and interestingly enough, we are actually only using 3 units. But yeah, we have the perks, the armor perk, which for every ultimate cast, the vessel permanently increases attack by 5% and crit hit damage by 5%, making them overall way stronger. And then also you gain crit rate up major and crit damage dealt up major. Overall, the vessels you want to go with and the artifacts are as following. So we have ourselves a Fanny right here. She's in the debuff artifact. She's going to be in whatever light armor gear you could spare, in the best light armor gear possible. Then second best light armor gear goes to Fleeting Bella. Fleeting Bella, highest artifact attack. Stella, on the other hand, if you have the Peacemaker and if you bought the copies from the shop now, making it a level 3, you can use the Peacemaker on her. The Peacemaker level 3 is going to be the best choice. If you don't have a Peacemaker level 3, use Philosopher's Stone level 5. If you don't have a Philosopher's Stone level 5, use Peacemaker level 1, and if you don't have a Peacemaker level 1, use Philosopher's Stone level 3. Bang. So, the way this stage works is pretty simple, is pretty straightforward. We have all these wolves, we're just gonna do 2x in the beginning. We have all these wolves attacking. We're restoring blood soul recovery slower, but the whole purpose for this is so that we can at least have all these units be close together, allowing us to hit all of them with a single Stellar ult. And then once they're all hit, you're going to see she's going to have her next ult cost 0, because 4 targets that were inflicted with her debuff actually died, and that's then pretty much the game plan moving forward. So we're always going to be using the ultimate here. And then we'll also use a Fanny ult. And then there's a certain scenario where you're going to be able to use one Stellar ult to clear 2 waves. And when you can do that, then obviously that's kind of what makes the difference between a higher and a lower score. I hope this should be the right... Yeah, this is the right unit we wanted to be targeting. And then also Fanny can help out in the duration where a fleeting Bella isn't ready with the additional damage. And then obviously worst thing that can happen is some people surviving, because the only thing that leads to is sadness, and that your score is just going to be worse than it could be. But yeah, then we also at some point are going to go into the Blood Moon, meaning we're going to be dealing extra damage there. But yeah, that's kind of about it about the stage. It's not too complicated, it's not too crazy. And if you can try to make it work with 5 units. But the overall reason why that isn't really so is so that you have these wolves clustered together more. And with them being clustered together, that is what allows you to hit all of them with the Fanny ult, because there's nothing, Stellar ult, right? There's nothing worse than not being able to hit all of them. And yeah, the difference maker between you getting like a 400 score and you getting like a 200 score is just simply in the level of investment in your Stellar, be it Echo Pieces, and also the level of investment in your Fanny. Same with Echo Pieces. It's just that, for example, we here currently are rocking a 0 copy, Stellar and a, I guess, 3 copy Fanny. The limit there seems to be somewhere in the 240s, 250s. Whereas then if you're like a Giga Whale and you have everything else maxed out, you're going to be able to get a higher score, because you're going to be killing 1, 2, potentially 3 waves with a single rotation. And yeah, that's kind of the stage, right? That's kind of the stage. It's going to end up somewhere around the 200s. You can try to time everything a little bit more perfectly, but yeah, this is the damage score output. You can see obviously Stellar doing by far the most amount of damage, and then you have Fanny and Fleeting Bella more there for support. If your Fanny is strong enough and you're looking for a higher score, what you can also try out is using just Fanny and just Stellar, and as long as Stellar can one-shot, you're going to be able to always use a single Stellar ult, and then just use a Fanny ult whenever you have the 4 cost.